Distinguished Toastmaster and past International Director, Tom Jones. The world has changed dramatically since the start of the pandemic, February 2020. I don't know if everyone remembers what they were doing around that time before the world kind of screeched to a halt. I know what I was doing, and something I'll share with all of you here tonight. I am a brewmaster as a hobby. We have won delightful awards and ribbons, and we were brewing so many beers for the best summer ever. We were probably sitting on close to 800 liters of beer, at which point COVID happened and you cannot see anyone or share anything. So what we had to do was we had a choice. We either drink it or give it away. I went on a COVID fitness plan and lost 25 pounds. My good beloved roommate didn't want any of the stout to go to waste, so he drank as much as he could and he gained 30 pounds. And I remember one day he was looking at us and he's like, Mackie, he's like, what happened? I'm like, well, you're drinking stout at 10 a.m. in the hot tub. I think you know what happened. But like, this was COVID world, right? So a lot changed. Everything changed. And Tom believes that more than ever, we need dynamic leaders. And it's our responsibility as Toastmasters to fill the leadership void, both within Toastmasters and the world we live in. Tom Jones is a management consultant, or works in management consultant, and has worked around the world with international organizations and the United Nations. He specializes in leadership, processes, and team building training. Tom, if you're ready, please welcome Distinguished Toastmaster Tom Jones, speaking on dynamic leadership, filling the leadership vacuum. The stage is yours, Tom.
Good evening, everyone. Madam District Director, District Executive Team, past international dignitaries, Toastmasters, and guests. I am Tom Jones, and I'm here to speak on my favorite subject. Now, you're already warmed up. Rochelle took care of that for me. Thank you, Rochelle. Really appreciate it. You've done your exercises. You're ready to go. I'm not going to do an interpretive dance. You would not like that. So I'm not going to do that. I could do something, but you probably wouldn't like it. But I'm excited to be here. I am, if you know me, and I recognize some of you, and some of you I don't know, but if you know me, you know that I love Toastmasters. I love Toastmasters, and I love talking about leadership. I just adore it. And sometimes I get a little too passionate. I admit that. Sometimes I become a bit dramatic. My goal today is not to become overly dramatic. But if I do, it's just who I am, because I get excited when I talk about Toastmasters. I get excited when I talk about leadership. So let me tell you why I'm here. I've been a district governor before. I've done a lot of things with District 21. This year, I had an opportunity to be the district leadership chairperson. I was in a conversation with our Madam District Director, Phyllis. And I was sharing with her, we were talking about the challenges of the district. We were talking about leadership stuff. We were talking about Toastmasters and the struggle with finding leaders and the situation that we find ourselves in today as a result of the pandemic. And it was a spirited conversation. It was quite lovely. We were just chatting and we were laughing, but it was a serious conversation. And at one point I said, yeah, I guess we're preaching to the choir. Preaching to the choir means that trying to convince someone to agree with something that they already are convinced about and agree. So she was telling me and I was telling her, it was a fantastic conversation. And then it shifted a bit. She said, well, Tom, why don't you talk about this at the district conference? She had me at hello. Let me tell you, I never had a chance. So there's some lessons here. You know, when we talk to district leaders, especially dynamic district leaders, and I thank you, Phyllis. I'm happy to be here. But when you talk about a challenge, don't be surprised if that leader says, oh, why don't you lead that? Or why don't you speak about that? Because that's how this thing works, what we do. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. So I had an opportunity. We were speaking to the choir, me and Phyllis. We solved the problems of Toastmasters right there. Phyllis and I. It was all solved. But then we realized that really we couldn't do a lot, just the two of us. It took more. So tonight, good guy, bad guy, good cop, bad cop, Rochelle being the good cop, and I'm not the good cop, I'm the bad cop. So I'm going to talk about things in a slightly different way, but I agree 100% with everything that Rochelle talked about, the importance of flexibility in the clubs. You got to have that. The world has changed. It will never go back. It's just not good. We have witnessed history. We've watched the world change in front of us. Now, you know, there's always been, in my opinion, a shortage of good leaders in the world, and even within our organization, there's a shortage. But with the changes that have taken place, it is more than ever a need for dynamic leaders. There's a need now for leaders, and now we'll talk about what a dynamic leader is. But here's what I want to present to you first of all. Imagine this, if you would. There's this imaginary police force. Let's say it's the anti-dynamic leader force. And this imaginary force is out looking for dynamic leaders. And if it finds them, it's going to arrest them and charge them with being dynamic leaders and trying to fill that leadership void. And they come into this room tonight. And how many of us are in here? I think there's 67 of us in the room, and we're all taken away. They take us all away. And we're charged with being dynamic leaders and filling that leadership void and stepping up and being prodigious leaders. Now they do a deep investigation on each one of us, an investigation. They do it, they talk to people and they ask, has this guy been a good leader, a dynamic leader? Has this person been creating new leaders? How many of us would be found not guilty because of a lack of evidence? There was nothing to support that you are a dynamic leader. I thought I was, but maybe I'm not, because they're going to ask other people. Yes, I think I am, but they're going to talk to the people around me. They're going to talk to the people I know. That's how you know. So tonight, spoiler alert, what I want at the end of this session is for you guys to know that we are the answer. We are the solution. There's this challenge out here for leadership, dynamic leadership, but we are the solution. And at the end, I want us to be committed to that. That's what I want. I want to commit to that process. I want all of us to commit to that, because like often I am the problem, I can also be the solution. And I believe that we have the best thing going. Toastmasters is the best thing going because it changes the world. So I'm about to get passionate because I believe in this organization. I've always been a good talker, but I wasn't a good communicator. And Toastmasters changed that for me and helped me to become a better communicator. So that being said, I love the organization. It has transformed me. It has changed me. And I know it has changed you guys. I know that. I also know today that I am, in fact, preaching to the choir. I'm talking to the choir because you guys believe it too. You guys love the organization. But the question is, are we doing enough? Or what can we do to build up our clubs, as Rochelle was talking about? Or what can we do to help any organization that we're engaged in, because leaders are needed everywhere. Leaders are needed in our family, on the teams that we're a part of, in the groups that we participate in. Leaders are needed everywhere. But the question is, are we able to step up, or we're willing to step up, because that's what it's going to take. If because we're the feeder group, I believe, for leaders into the world. People come in here, they learn, they grow, and they have an opportunity to go out into the world and change it. I love this organization so much, and I believe that our leaders, our new leaders, the new Toastmasters, they have a chance to step up and learn how to lead in this safe environment and then go out into the world and be successful. That's what everything that we do in Toastmasters, my opinion, is transferable to the world out there. So if I engage in Toastmasters when I go out, I'm better prepared, because the world is very competitive. And if I represent or stand beside someone who's not a Toastmasters, I'll take my chances, because you know what? Toastmasters prepares us. Now you may say, well, Tom, you're being overly dramatic. It's not that bad, but I say it is. The reason I say it is because Toastmasters is where leaders are made. That's our claim to fame, and it's happening. And yet, as dynamic leaders, maybe we're not dynamic. Maybe we're just leaders. Maybe we're just okay leaders. Because I'm going to give you some attributes of dynamic leaders, as I believe. Because if you have dynamic leaders bring in new members. Dynamic leaders do not accept the status quo. The status quo is not good enough. We can't continue to do what we've always done, because the world has changed in front of our faces. And we need to be prepared to do something different. We need to be prepared to do more. And I would say that most of us are doing a lot, but I still think that we can do more. Now, it's not my place to say, Rochelle, you should be doing more. Phyllis, you should be. That's not my place. The whole concept of dynamic leaders, this is a personal development model. I need to do more. If I do more, a dynamic leader is about being self-aware. I need to do more. And I need to help you to do more, but I can't make you do anything. But as a self-aware leader, I have the opportunity to grow personally, because the first rule of leadership is first lead yourself. You got to lead. If I can't lead me, why would I expect you to follow me? If I'm not modeling that leadership behavior, why would you want to be like me or be around me? I think sometimes, and this is just my thoughts, I think sometimes that we don't make the leadership role sound as attractive as it really is. I don't think we share enough about the importance of leadership and how it changes everything. I think we sometimes, and I'm just saying, I think sometimes maybe we complain about it a bit too much. We complain about it because maybe we're not doing it the right way, or maybe we need some help, or maybe we don't have the right mentors helping us. But leadership is a beautiful opportunity. I think on Barack Obama, who talked about, and we're talking about dynamic service leadership. He talked about his life did not change until he realized that it was not about him. It was about helping others. It's about doing more. And so part of this whole leadership concept is about giving back and doing more. Service leadership is about putting our members first, the upside down pyramid, where we take care of our members first. And a dynamic leader is self-aware enough where he's already checked his ego at the door and he jumps in and he's ready to serve. You see, I always thought I wanted to be a leader, but that's not true. What I really wanted to be was a boss. I wanted to tell people what to do. That's what I wanted to do. I was young and immature, but that was my concept. But the boss, the stereotypical boss, is the opposite of a dynamic leader. Because a boss is not self-aware because he only cares about what he wants. He's not thinking about others. And dynamic leadership is about caring about other people. A dynamic service leader is about looking out for other people. And when you look out for other people, not just in Toastmasters, but in life in general, guess what you're doing? You're encouraging people, you're leading hope, and you're creating leaders because now people believe in themselves. And then when you ask or encourage them to step forward, guess what? They will because you asked them to. I'm gonna turn it down. Tom, calm down because I get excited. Dynamic leadership is so important in the world today, not just in Toastmasters, but with our families, because we need to lead our families. If I'm a dynamic leader and I'm this really great guy in Toastmasters, but I don't go home and lead, they're not because see, leadership is not something you turn off and you turn on. If you are a leader all the time. And that means that you have to act like one. Now, I'm not claiming to be perfect, please. And the people who know me know I'm not. But this is not about being perfect. This is about practicing self-awareness and being the best that you can be. And knowing that as long as I'm working on myself and studying and growing, I can be a better leader because I'm now modeling the behavior that I want others to see. And I'm encouraging my mentees or my proteges to do the same thing. And guess what? They want to be like you. They want to be like me. If we're doing it right, but if we're not doing it right, I don't want to be like you. Have you ever been as a leader, looked around and there was no one following you because you had missed it? You missed the boat. I have. I thought I was just leading myself. I thought I was just this consummate leader. I was running this company down in the States. I thought I was the end all, the be all. I thought I was a dynamic leader, but I wasn't even a dynamic boss. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. It's important to be aware, self-aware of what's going on around you. I need to know my strengths, and I need to know the things that I need to work on. And there's no way to find that out if other people don't share that with me, and they won't tell me if I'm not open. I'm asking you guys to be open-minded tonight too about the things that I'm saying. And if it applies, jot it down. If it doesn't apply to you, don't throw it away. Put it on the shelf because you might need it one day. Think of this as an inventory. Am I a dynamic leader? If it came for me, would they find me guilty of being a dynamic leader? Or would they let me go because there's no evidence for this person here? I want there to be a lot of evidence that I've been leading and doing the best that I can. And you don't have to be perfect. You just have to do the best you can. And that's all we're asking for. One thing that I'm going to ask, and this is just do this for me if you like. Do we agree that we do have a challenge in front of us, a problem, a situation, an issue, a dilemma? Do we agree that there's more that we can do? Let me see you move your hands if you believe me. Because if you disagree with me, it's okay. People disagree with me all the time. But I think that we can. Now, a lot of times we get hung up on well, let's not call it a problem. Let's not call it an issue. Let's forget about semantics. If we cannot accept and acknowledge that we need to do better, we're not going to do better. I think that we're changing lives. The people in our rooms, we're changing lives, but I know that we can do better. And the only way to do that is to challenge people. But I can't challenge you. I need to challenge me. And that's a very important thing to talk about. I need to challenge me. Because if you challenge me, I'm going to get angry. I'm going to get mad. You know, we don't tell people what to do in Toastmasters. We don't do that. We inspire them. We ask them. We tell them what we need. And then we say, we can do it. The whole thing about dynamic leadership and this self-awareness, it's about being a problem solver. How many of you know people who complain all the time? Just complain all the time about everything. Just about everything. It's just the most difficult conversation in the world because it's like Debbie Downer on the old Saturday Night Live. Just down. It doesn't matter what you say. I have a sister like that. And when we talk and communicate, love my sister. And we are talking about things and she says something and I say, well, you know, maybe you could do this. She doesn't hear me. She goes right back to that problem because she enjoys. I know Toastmasters like that who talk about what they can't do all the time. We can't do that. There's no way. Dynamic leaders are problem solvers. They know that even one of the things my dad told me, and he knew right away that I was not the sharpest knife in the drawer. He knew that, but he knew that I had some potential. He said, surround yourself with really smart people and you'll do well. You cannot complain your way to success. If you don't know the answer, surround yourself with people and ask. And between the two of us, we create synergy and we're so much smarter. The sum of the parts are greater than the whole. And we can figure out anything. And I challenge you because I've done this with teams and working with people, situations that appear to be impossible. We get together and between us, we work on it and we fix it. Dynamic leaders don't want to hear that part about there's no way to do it. Now, yes, we do need to talk about the problem. Yes, we do. But dynamic leaders talk about the problem because they're looking for the right problem to fix. Usually there are a bunch of things wrong, but if you find the right one, and if you correct it, it will have a chain effect on the others. But we have to discuss the problem, identify what the right problem is, brainstorm it, state it correctly, brainstorm it, create an action plan and go into the implementation phase. If that doesn't work, we go back to step 2 here and we start all over again. But we don't accept no for an answer. And we do this not only in our clubs, but we do it at home. We do it in our office, in our workplace, because that's what dynamic leaders do. If you find yourself, if you don't know anyone who does a lot of complaining, you may be the one. I had to learn not to complain about everything. I had a mentor who stopped me in my tracks. Everything he would suggest to me and say, I would say, but, and he just stopped me and said, Tom, do you really want to solve it or do you want to talk about it? And that helped me to see. Now I can hear myself when I come up with excuses, because dynamic leaders don't want to hear excuses. They want to find solutions. Unfortunately, and I learned that growing up. So I had to change that. And we're all products of our environment. We grow up with a certain mindset. And the thing about being a dynamic leader is you only have to change the one thing, and that is everything to do with your perspective. I need to change everything that has anything to do with my perspective, because the way I looked at the world as a problem, and the only thing I had, I looked at the world as a nail, and the only thing I had was a hammer. So everything I tried to solve with the hammer, that's not how it works. So I had to change my perspective on the world, and I didn't know how to do that, but I had to learn. I learned it in Toastmasters. I learned it from great mentoring. I learned it from reading books and studying, because a dynamic leader will not accept that there is no solution to the problems. So a dynamic leader follows, in my opinion, the service leader model. Now, it can apply to any of the other models because it's about self, looking out for self and taking care of yourself, making sure that I grow and I'm properly prepared to be a good service leader. One of the steps is to focus on positive change, to focus on positive change, not just change, because we're good at just, me cleaning up my house and I move the dirt from one corner to the next corner. That's not change. That's not change. When you make a change, you're increasing the efficiency of it or the effectiveness of it, or you're decreasing the amount of time, or you're automating something. So for example, automating the process of a guest coming in to conversion to a member, streamlining that process so that we all know how to do that, right? We know how to do that. The team, not just the VP of membership, but everybody knows how to do that. Focusing on a positive change, not just a superficial change, a surface change, but a real change. But that happens when we work in a team and we look at all these problems and we figure the right one, and then we fix it by decreasing the amount of time it takes to do that. The thing about being positive is there were these two guys, and this is a joke. I'm not good at it, but just bear with me. There were the two guys, and they were getting ready to do something. And the one guy said to the other one, "You can't do this. You're going to mess it up. You always mess it up." And the other guy said to him, "Well, why don't you be positive for once?" Another guy said, "Well, I'm positive you're going to mess it up. I'm positive you're going to mess it up." So, being positive is more than just using the words. Looking for positive change is an attitude, it's a demeanor. And when we live our lives that way, we actually do find the opportunities to fix things. We don't, and we do that with our teams. And how does that work with creating new leaders? Well, we don't do this by ourselves. Everything we do it with our proteges, with the new Toastmasters, and with our team. And as a result of that, they're learning how to be dynamic leaders. Now, when I ask them to step up, and they say, "Well, I'm not prepared." You said, "But yes, you are. You've been with me through this whole thing." If I work with a team, I'm developing leaders, especially if I let them, I'm just there to facilitate the process, not telling them what you got to do, but we're sitting back and thinking. We built a club a couple years ago, Unicorn Tribe Toastmasters, and we got together as a team, and it was this dynamic field with dynamic leaders, and we put together a club, and that club is brand new, been distinguished, President's Distinguished 2 years in a row. But it wasn't because of Tom Jones. It was because his team got together, they were positive, and they put it and they made it happen. The other thing that a dynamic leader does, and they do it very well, is they use the word we. They don't talk about I, that ninth letter leader, I. Now, if I'm trying to inspire, then I'm talking about my story. I'm talking about me. Yes, this is what I do. But when I'm working with a team or with a group, I use the word we. I talk about we, I, inclusive. I think it was mentioned earlier. We talk about, well, here's what we can do. We have a problem. What can we do about it? That's what a dynamic leader does. That's what a service leader does. They ask, what can we do? They talk about us. They talk about our, so that we have ownership of everything and we work together as a team. Is that important? Absolutely, it's important. And that's how you build and grow leaders. If a leader is not creating and making new leaders, then what are they doing? A dynamic leader is responsible for creating and building, making new leaders. And if you're not doing that, then the question is, what are you doing? So Tom Jones, are you creating leaders? Have you made a new leader today? Have you encouraged anyone today? Have I encouraged my mentors to step up for leadership roles? Actively encouraging them to step up for leadership roles. Because if I'm not, then maybe I'm not a dynamic leader. Now I believe that we're all doing that, but I'm thinking that we could do it a little bit better. You know, that tweaking, I can become a little bit better at that. I can be a little bit, because doing this process of looking for leaders for the district, it was really a struggle. A lot of people said no, they were too busy. They didn't have it. They were busy. And I get that because I am busy. But you know what a good leader, a dynamic leader will do? They will help them to see that, well, if you're busy, I can show you how you can step up and do that role, because I'll help you. And that will make it only half the time that you have to do it. I'll work with you. Hey, I don't think any leader should be working any role by themselves. I think everybody should have a team, a committee, an assistant working with them, because we all have lives. I can't do this 24/7. I have other things I need to do, but I can show you how you can do that. I can show you how you can have the time to do that, because we're all busy. And you know why I have to step up and do roles? Because the only way to keep what Toastmasters is given to me is to give it away. You got to give it away. I got to be engaged with other leaders, because working on the basics, because that's how I grow. That's how you grow. Now, a dynamic leader also is decisive. Has to be decisive. You need to be decisive. What is the opposite of decisive? Indecisive. We have to make decisions with our team and sometimes without our teams. We need to make decisions based on the information that we have. And sometimes it's difficult to make decisions, but if you don't know what to do, you ask who? Your mentor. You ask somebody who's done it before. But I have a solution for a lot of the questions that we don't know the answers to. And this is my experience. If I read the club leadership handbook, if I read the district leadership handbook, if I read the government documents at my organization, my company, if I read their policies and procedures, it helps me to make decisions. But if I haven't read them, how can I even know what I can and cannot do? Let me tell you an experience I had recently. Recently, I was the trainer for the club presidents, and this really happened. And during the training, and I'm a stickler for the book. If you read that book, the manual, it will tell you how to do it. If you want a high quality club, high functioning club, and if you want 20, 30 members, if you follow that program, people will, if you build it, they will come. It's not a secret. You just follow the book. But I had the audacity. This is me, I'm the bad cop. I had the audacity to say to the group, and I suggest you read the club leadership handbook if you have not. Do you know that in the comments after the meeting, the survey to me, he had the nerve to tell us to read the club leadership handbook. And I smile, but it's not really funny. If I'm going to be a leader in any level, I need to read, because if I read that book, it helps me to not be indecisive. I'm not stuck with analysis paralysis. I will make a decision. The other thing about it is if I don't make a decision, guess what happens? The decision is made for me. My team is watching me to see how I handle this situation, this crisis. I don't have to know the answer. I can even say, I don't know the answer. Let's find it. We can call it Toastmasters International. We can call my mentor. We can find the answer, but we need to make decisions. And I urge everyone, if you read that club leadership handbook, if you read how to grow your club and follow it, you do. If you read, if you have a club success plan and you follow the club success plan, which says do moments of truth, and you follow use the DCP as a measuring of how well that process is going, I guarantee you, you'll have a dynamic club. You'll have 20, 30 members because we're working together as a team and people come in, yes, will walk into that meeting and they want to be there. It's so hard when we have fewer members because everyone has to do double duty. The tendency when we have low members clubs is to close in to protect ourselves, when in fact we need to open up and embrace the change and do some of those creative things that Rochelle was talking about. And that will bring in members. And then, because you know what, when I went to my first meeting, I saw my future mentor was dancing doing the table topics. I would never do it. But not only was she dancing doing the table topic, I saw them doing things that the meeting started on time, it ended on time, and there were. And I was like, how are they doing that? Dynamic leaders respect the time. They do. They respect the time. I was impressed by that. Clubs that manage themselves, people want to be a part of it. If you're not growing, maybe it's because of that. This is a wild guess on my part. I just believe that what we have is so good. If someone walks in and see it happening as it's supposed to, how could they help but not join? The world has changed so much today. We have, you know what our target market is? It used to be local. New York City was New York City, Richmond was Richmond. Today, this is a global marketplace now. We can get members from all over the world. And there's 7 billion people in the world, 7 billion. I know I could get 20 for my club because they're out there, but they don't know about me. And the dynamic leader will not accept no as an answer because they know there are at least 20 people out there that want to join that club. They know that. Being a dynamic leader has nothing to do with your title. It's not about being the president, not about being the district director or international director. It's not about that. It's about what you do every day. It's about how you carry yourself, how you develop relationships, how you build relationships. That's a dynamic leader. How do you talk to the waitress? How do you talk to people? How do you talk to people? That's a dynamic leader who's creating, you know, I found members for clubs everywhere. I talk to everybody, everywhere I go. And I talk about Toastmasters everywhere I go. Leadership is not about the position. It's about the process, what you do, how you live your life. I'm not saying you got to be perfect, because I'm not. But if we're engaged with people in our club, everywhere we go, we can grow our club. We won't have a shortage of people for club officers. We should have 2, 3, 4 people running for division directors, interested in it, qualified, ready to go. We can do that. That's the ideal world. And you know, it's not just, I'm not talking about just low member clubs. I'm talking about clubs with 20, 25, 30 members. I think our club model, I think what we're doing, what we offer is so great that every 4 or 5 years, we should have to start a new club because we got too many members. Yeah, I'm a dreamer. But that's what I believe. That's how good I believe what we're doing is. Now, the other thing about a dynamic leader is humble. A dynamic leader is not arrogant. A dynamic leader is kind. Because if you're humble and you're kind, people want to be around you. If you're humble, you're not looking up at anyone and you're not looking down. You treat everybody the same. A dynamic leader works in an ego-free way. That's so critical. A dynamic leader, a service leader, checks their ego at the door and they walk in and they work with people and they help people. They don't judge. They're not gossiping. We don't gossip. Dynamic leaders don't gossip. They talk about how we can make things better. If they're not saying something nice about a person, they're not saying anything bad. And that's the dynamic. And this, you can say, well, Tom, this is common sense. But you know, common sense is not so common, right? It's just not. It's something that we need to work at. I'm working at it. I have to keep working at it because sometimes I can forget where I'm at. You know, we practice being dynamic leaders. We practice being better people. We don't always get it right. Not 100% of the time. We just don't, you know. A dynamic leader communicates with confidence. Now, but Tom, you just said be humble and be kind. How can I now be confident? Well, they're not, you know, they all go the same way. Confidence just means having the courage to say what you need to say and believing in what you say, not using weasel words. I think that maybe we could do that. I don't know what we can do. Being bold and saying, yes, we can do it, and then coming up with a plan to do that. I believe that as dynamic leaders, if you are confident, then those around you will become confident. But if I don't have confidence, because the people around us, you know, the law of assimilation says that we become like the people we're with. So that means I need to be real careful with the people that I'm around, or I need to be positive so that I am making a difference in their lives. Because otherwise, what am I really doing? So it's not about bullying. A dynamic leader does not bully. You know, I've seen leaders who shame their members. I've seen that. I've watched in the business space. I've saw leaders who they led through the process of shaming others. That's not a dynamic leader. If we can't encourage, then we don't have anything to say. Now, I can't control what other people do, but I think within our organization, and I don't believe that that happens a lot, but dynamic leaders don't have a problem encouraging others to become leaders, to step up to the plate, because they're modeling the behavior. And that's a very, very critical thing. And with all that in mind, a dynamic leader has the ability to laugh at themselves. A dynamic leader is not so overly serious as to blah everybody out. You know, I laugh at myself all the time. I'm quite funny in the way I think. I used to be dead serious, but someone told me to lighten up, because that's how you build a team. If you can't laugh with your team, if you can't laugh with your employees or your employer, then maybe something is going on. If in your club, if they're not laughing and learning, then maybe what are we doing? You know, I heard something recently, and I'm going to say this. A leader cannot lead from behind. A dynamic leader needs to be up front. They need to be up there where the action is. They need to be just as busy as everybody else that they're talking to. So let me tell you something. Often I talk to people and they say, and this comes courtesy of my friend Pat Johnson. They say, well, we're just a volunteer group of people. And so why do you expect so much from us? Well, we are more than volunteers. This is a educational program. And we pay to be members of this club so that we can be educated and we can grow and we can become leaders. We're more than just volunteers. We are more than volunteers. We enrolled in this education program to be leaders. And guess what is happening around us? And I believe that we can do even more. The last one I'm going to give you is this one. A dynamic leader owns the results. Owns the results. If it's good, great, give the credit to your team. But if we fail, I need to accept full responsibility because I'm the leader. I need to accept it. That's what this is about. We have an environment in our club and all of this in Toastmasters where it's a safe place to come. It's a safe place to make mistakes and to grow. And when things go wrong, I own up to it. When things go right, we give the credit to our members. So here's the deal. The challenge tonight is each of us to ask that question, am I a dynamic service leader? Tom, are you a dynamic leader? That you can ask yourself. We do the inventory. Do I display these characteristics? Am I in fact bringing in new members? Am I kind? Am I humble? Am I self-aware? And am I working and am I a problem solver? These are questions that we ask. If each one teaches one, then we're well on our way. But here's my challenge to each one of you. We'll go back to that imaginary dynamic leadership committee. If they came for you, what would they say? Now, you think about that, and I ask you this. Can we, by a show of hands, just say, maybe we can do better? And maybe we can tell our Madam District Director that we are committing ourselves tonight to being even better dynamic leaders. If we're already dynamic leaders, we're going to maintain it. And if we're not, we're going to become that. And we are going to fill the leadership void. We're going to fill that leadership vacuum. We're going to do that. And if you agree with me, I'm just going to ask you to move your hands a little bit like that. Just say, I'm going to do it, Tom. And this is to our district director. This is to the new one and to the yes, we're going to do it. Phyllis, we're going to do it for you because we believe in this organization. And I'm going to tell you something. If you love this organization like I do, and I believe you do, I know that we're preaching to the choir tonight. You guys are here. You believe in this thing. We can do this together. And I'm available anytime to help anybody to do anything. Because guess what? We have the best thing going. Back to you, Tyler.